Towing is a career full of different situations, from vehicles missing a wheel to having none at all. A great operator learns to use all the tools in both his physical and mental toolbox. I'm here today to tell you about a new, exciting tool to add to your physical toolbox, the BakPul Hitch. Like many people on the internet, I had my doubts about this product. Doubts I personally aired on this podcast. But the fine folks over at BakPul Hitch sent me one of their products to try, and boy, was I surprised. Its quality of build and ease of use made me eat my words real quick. So if you're a doubter like I was, head over to bakpulhitches.com for more information and to find out how to add another tool to your toolbox. That's BakPul Hitches.com.
Yeah. I like this question. When is it okay to decline a police call?
Ooh, that's gonna be a touchy.
Yep. Easy wheel, and then we can finish up with what makes a good invoice.
If time.
We can always push it back to another episode.
We always seem to push your topics back the other episodes.
We never push
mine. Like expand them or make them as small as possible.
I don't think I've ever had a really good idea, and we're going to push that back.
No, you guys have way more interesting, because you're like dealing with it every day. I'm on the outside.
Which is good.
Oh, invoicing sounds interesting.
It is an interesting topic.
Well, okay, so I'll give you a little bit of background about why I'm interested in this topic. Is because when I was talking to him, he finds that a lot of people call him and they're like, how do we get paid? And he was talking about how you have to be super descriptive in your invoice. And if he sends out invoices that have full description, I did this, I did this, I did this. I didn't just clean up, I swept the road, I did. And if you go into like really great detail, he says he doesn't get invoices rejected.
Hey everyone, I'm Brad from Calgary.
This is Sean from Cambridge, Ontario.
I'm Terry from Cornwall, Ontario.
Hey, this is Larry from Pitt Meadows, British Columbia, and you're listening to the Towing Life podcast.
Exactly. So like, even though it seems super arduous, it's good to break down everything. Even if to you, you're like, well, yeah, of course you.
Arduous means. Neither does G. He doesn't know what it means either. So.
I have no idea. No.
A lot of work for not a lot of payoff, I guess.
Oh, okay. So the towing industry is very arduous.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of your job is very arduous.
98% of it. Yes.
Requiring great exertion, laborious, and difficult. All right, I think.
You done dying?
Yeah. I'm ready.
Okay.
Yay. Let's go.
Welcome to the Towing Life podcast, where the ditches are deep, the trucks are loaded, but the drivers are not. I am your host, TowManG, and as usual, I am joined by my co-host, friend, and former co-worker, the man with very strong opinions, Mr. PlainGuy. Also, joining us this week is our wonderful producer, Sarah, that keeps everything going behind the scenes week in and week out.
I didn't like my intro.
Good.
I don't feel like you put enough enthusiasm in it. But that being said, how are you, G? How are you, Sarah?
I'm doing all right.
Me too. Doing good.
G sounds like somebody kicked his puppy. Did somebody kick your peacock?
No. No, I don't think so.
Do you need somebody to kick your peacocks?
No. They're pretty good at flying away.
Sounds so dirty. YouTube's going to get us in trouble for saying peacocks.
Yeah.
As G said, welcome to another episode of the Towing Life podcast. It is always great to sit down with G and Sarah to discuss everything in and out of towing as we see fit. And most of the time we see the most unnecessary things fit. So before we get too far into everything, we'll get our plugs, we'll get our mentions, we'll get everything out of the way. We always appreciate your comments, questions, concerns, anything that you want talked about on the show. How can you find us? It is easy. Head over to www.towinglife.ca. You will find all the information there. You will find our contest right now for the recovery of the month. We will be announcing the winner for February in a couple minutes. You can find our merch store by going to towinglife.ca/shop. And our links to the BakPul hitch, whether you be in Canada or the US, they are both there by going to towinglife.ca/BakPul, BakPul. We've got this merchandise, this wonderful hoodie I'm wearing. Geez, we haven't made available to the public because it's exclusive to him. I've got the towing saved me from becoming a porn star. Now I'm just a hooker. And G has the no one else's opinion matters, because at the end of the day, that is how he truly feels, whether it be on this show or at home. He was just telling us how no one else's opinion in his household matters other than his. Is that pretty accurate, G? And, I almost forgot. If you're watching over on the YouTube side, do not forget to leave a like, a comment, a thumbs up. If you don't like us, double thumbs down. It'll really tell YouTube how you feel about us. And you'll never see us on your feed again. G, did I miss it?
I'd just like to point out that you're actually here for this recovery of the month. So I appreciate that instead of bailing like last month.
I didn't. Where was I?
I don't know.
I was on something. I don't know where I was. It was
You're
a busy time. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You had to announce that by yourself, Gavin. TowManG. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Look at me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. No one cares. We can mute that part. Yes, he did announce it by himself. Yeah. Did a wonderful job, I might add. I don't give you credit for the things you do sometimes enough. I am sitting here week after week just beating you up.
Mm-hmm.
And you went out and did one of the hardest things ever, which is to record a 5 to 10 minute solo. Especially you being a man of so many words on these episodes. And you managed to do a fine job. Did the recovery of the month by yourself and put together an old throwback to episode 1. So
if you couldn't pick up on that, listeners, that was all sarcasm.
I don't use sarcasm ever. I use a lot of curse words. Yeah, okay, there's a bit of sarcasm in there sometimes.
Sarcasm and coffee is what keeps us going, don't you know?
That is 90% of my diet. So don't forget, if you're going to have a coffee, wait an hour and a half before you wake up. After you wake up to have your first coffee, it'll have a longer lasting effect from TowManG.
Yeah,
those words have stuck with me. Those words have really stuck with me. So
we actually tried that.
No, I didn't. I don't have that kind of time to wait to have a coffee. I'm dying in the morning. I've been running on 3-4 hours sleep at max lately, and like broken up increments, sleep here, and it's just...
You will notice a difference.
Maybe, but after sleeping for only 3 hours in a night, I'm not waiting another hour and a half to have a coffee. If I'm going to get up, the only thing keeping me moving is having that coffee. So,
yeah, I guess.
Let's get to this month's recovery of the month. Let's get it not out of the way, because let's be honest, it's something great that we have every month. We get to bring to you guys. This week's recovery of the month is sponsored by PlainGuy Productions. That is right, the one and only PlainGuy Productions was nice enough to sponsor the recovery of the month for February 2023. This is sent in by a Mr. John Adley. I didn't get where John was submitting from. Judging by this was, I want to say November, December, this was submitted. There wasn't much snow, so I'm guessing it's somewhere down in the southerns. But
just because he submitted it then doesn't mean that's when he did it.
That is true. It looks like it is a monsoon mud pit. This job looked to be a nightmare. And the more he explains it, the worse it got. So we were called to the scene of a rolled over garbage truck. Upon arrival, we learned it was fully loaded. It was a fully loaded front loading truck weighing in at nearly 102,000 pounds. At 23 years old, I was in charge of the scene and conducted the recovery efforts. After the first attempt failed, we added a strap up around the back that brought the truck back onto its wheels. The entire front axle was ripped out of the truck, so that made for a good challenge. What made this really tricky was we were working in torrential rains. The entire scene was a mud run. After 3.5 hours on scene, we successfully recovered the truck and had it hooked up to my truck to tow back to town. I was operating my 1986 Kenworth W900 with a 30-ton Challenger on it, accompanied with one other guy who was running a 2003 Kenworth T300 MDL 240 16-ton unit. It was my first recovery of this scale, and it was a learning curve from start to finish, using only a 16 and a 30-ton record. I believe this was a recovery I'll never forget, one for the books. Yeah. So, John, good on you. You know what? You were not running with the biggest of equipment out there.
No.
What I really liked about John's recovery is the ability to admit that our first attempt failed.
Yeah.
It wasn't, hey, I'm 23 years old. I came in and I stole the show and I did this beautiful recovery with probably not ideally you'd want a little more truck on that. In the torrential rain, he could line it up to be, I was a superstar. No, the reality is I learned, I made mistakes, and I kept working at it, and we got everything uprighted and towed back to our yard. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of operators can relate to that, right? You have jobs that go beautifully. You have jobs that you do something that you don't think will work. It magically comes around. Everything is nice. It's smooth. You couldn't have asked for better. But the reality is you also have jobs like this. You have jobs in torrential downpour rain where nothing goes right. Your first attempt fails. Your second attempt might have some hiccups in it. But what do? Do you leave it on the side? Do you take a step back and rethink it and go back at it and come up with a new plan? And that's what John did on this recovery. And in my opinion, that's why this deserves recovery of the month for February.
You also got to remember this guy is way undergunned. He's got the 16-ton there, which guaranteed only has 2 lines on it. And his 30-ton has probably got 2 lines on the boom and might have a belly winch, but I doubt it. So you got 4 cables, 4 winches on this job to upright 102,000 pounds worth of garbage and metal.
With a broken out axle on it too, not to mention, right? That makes life it doesn't quite come down the way you might want it to.
So like, where are you to have 2 trucks on that rigging points? You got no front axle to grab to, so you got the 3 rear axles in the frame. So you've lost at least 25% of your go-to rigging spots just off the bat showing up. And then you've also got to be able to make sure you get to anchor your trucks. I'm not sure if that 16-ton there actually has stiff legs on the back. I hope it did.
I'm guessing it did. Yeah,
I'm hoping it did. But still, it's not a fun job, and I can only imagine if it's warm and rainy, the smell when that truck came back over too. So being there for 3.5 hours in the rain, you're soaked, you got the smell. You're sweating probably because you're working harder, and especially having that truck flop back over the first time or not even be able to get it up the first time. I know we've all been there. It definitely takes a toll on you.
Absolutely. Now, you think he dropped the drive shaft when he towed it? Or if he was smart, John, this is a question. You can follow up with this. I want to hear this. You can email us at thetowinglife@gmail.com or message us on our Facebook page at the Towing Life podcast on Facebook. Did you remember to undo the drive shaft while it was on its side? Because if not, after uprighting this thing and everything leaking underneath while you're trying to hook up, and like you talked about with the garbage smell and the fluids and the everything, I hope in your excitement at your young age that when you got to do this job, you thought about that and removed that drive shaft while that truck was on its side, because there was no rear towing it.
No,
not loaded like that, and obviously with the front axle missing. So I'd be curious, John, follow up with us on that one if you removed the drive shaft while it was on its side, and be honest, we'll have a chuckle at your expense if you didn't.
And cage 3 out of the 4 brakes.
No, you can supply air to it and everything else afterwards. That's not a big deal.
Yeah, as long as the airline's not broken, I guess. With the front axle ripped out, that's the only reason.
Yeah. So no, I'm sure you could have done, but I'm just curious to what steps you took in the preparation for this. So, Sarah, anything to add to this wonderful garbage truck mess of a mud pit?
No, you guys said everything that I thought made this one a winner. I like that he admitted that he couldn't make it work the first time around, and that he's a young guy out there just working with the tools he has. That's why I've always admired tow operators, is that, you take what you got and you do the best with it. And that's what he managed to do here.
Yeah,
good on you, John.
Yeah, absolutely. In the end of the day, the job got done. Nobody got hurt, and the truck got towed, and hopefully the bills got paid. So no, that is a great recovery of the month. You can find it over on our social media. If you're wondering, if you're listening on the audio side, on the release day of episode on Tuesday, you head over to the Towing Life podcast on Facebook, and we'll have the video up there. Also, John, if you're a listener, if I can't tag you on the Facebook side, send us over an email, thetowinglife@gmail.com. I think I've got your email, so I'll probably reach out to you. We will get you set up with your $50 Canadian Amazon gift card, which is what everyone gets for winning the month of the recovery of the month. So head on over, submit yours now, www.towinglife.ca/recovery. Get your recoveries in. You have a chance to win March, and don't worry if you don't see yourself in March. You could be in April, you could be in May, and any of the other months that are coming up. It is a continuous pool that keeps accumulating. So get them in early, get them in often, and have your chance to win.
And even if you have a recovery in mind that you're like, that won't win, send it in regardless, because maybe we might see it differently. You never know. Well, what do you got to lose?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't cost you anything to send in, and all you get is some fame and recognition and a shiny gift card. I guess it's not really shiny because it's digital. It's a new age we live in. But it'll buy you something pretty, right? We talked about that on Valentine's Day. It'll for our better halves, it'll buy them something pretty next year Valentine's Day.
You know what I found with tow operators is that they often will be like, oh no, nothing interesting has ever happened to me, because they're in it day in and day out, and they're just, recoveries are just their bread and butter. But the thing is that when you're actually talking about these recoveries to people on the outside, or to people who weren't there working with you, they're like, wow, dude, that's really awesome that you did that. So I really encourage people to submit.
Absolutely. No, and the more we share our stories like this and it gets out, it's, you know what, although we can be towers, you can get a very big, arrogant bunch of towers, and you can get a very humble group of towers. And sometimes it's nice for these guys to just give themselves a pat on the back and say, hey, this was a job I did, right? This is a job I did. I thought it was pretty cool. And, maybe someone else agrees with it. And if not, maybe they can show you something you might have done differently, right? Maybe someone will see those photos and go, hey, if you would have done this differently, angled the truck at this direction, maybe you could have, made your life a little easier. But that's what towing's about. It's about learning, right? We never get it right. We don't always get it right every time the first time. Let's be honest.
And to be honest, we always like to one up each other. At least most of us do. And like, you take pictures. Like I remember I was training this one guy, and we had a tandem Sea-Doo trailer with a blown out bearing, and it was too wide to fit onto a flatbed. So I set up half a set of dollies underneath of it and did the ratchet strap trick. And as we were there fighting with it, getting it up, because the tire was actually so small and the tire was blown too, we had to get a block of wood and set that up on the dollies. Like, it was a great pain in the ass for what it was. And I told him, I was like, this job doesn't pay enough, but you take a picture of that, and down the road, you'll be able to show other operators, and they'll be like, I've never seen that done before. And it's just one of the things to keep you going, because you know that you got the job done and you have the knowledge, and that's your proof of that.
Absolutely. Kind of like, wasn't I the one that showed you that trick?
You never showed it to me, but you told me about it.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I've done that exact scenario back when we worked together, and that's what I was wondering if I've
done that 3 times now on all Sea-Doo trailers, actually.
God damn Sea-Doo trailers.
Yeah.
So I want to get to something. We had a listener reach out through the Facebook page, Towing Life Podcast on Facebook, and send us a message with a couple topics you want to cover. One of the first things was he asked if we could cover more topics that happen within the United States. So obviously we've got a big listener base down in the United States, and we definitely want to give you guys, topics that relate locally to you. What is hard for us is that because we are active in the Canadian towing industry, which a lot of it, relates, and there's a lot of things when it comes to specific laws or scenarios, there is always that difference. It's hard for us to give educated opinions or any of that stuff on issues that you're facing, right? So we will do our best to try and bring a little bit more American content, but it's like me asking you what you know about towing in Ontario. You would tell me very little. Right. So for us to sit here and talk to you about towing in New Jersey or towing in Arkansas or towing in Delaware, it's very hard to, be educated on serious topics that you're facing. I do want to, Sarah, this is a reminder to put another note in for next week if we get the time into it. I do want to talk about something going on in Ohio. Some interesting news coming out of Ohio. I'm going to personally do some research. I'm going to read some things.
Wow.
And hopefully have some information on the rental car companies and their attempt to really hinder the towing industry in Ohio. So keep an eye out for that next week, if not the week after. Yeah.
Sounds interesting.
I know. So one of the questions listener Adam did have, and it is a very good one. And Gia, I'm going to ask this to you because I want your opinion before I give mine, and Sarah, yours as well. When is it okay to decline a police call?
When is it okay to decline a police call?
When is it okay to say no to the police? And we're going to play this out, the scenario. We're going to go scenario A and scenario B. To start, scenario A is at time of dispatch. Right? So you get a call from the police. Hey, it's the sheriff's department. We don't have sheriffs, but I like to say it. It's the sheriff's department. We've got this call for you on interstate here and here. And you go, no, I can't do it. When is that okay? Is it okay?
Well, I mean, around here, a lot of times you're on contract, right? You're contractually obliged to go, right? So regardless if you don't have a truck, that's your fault for not maintaining that ability to service your contracts. And if you do that a couple too many times, you're going to lose that contract.
Agreed.
So realistically, the only times you should never really.
This isn't contract. Let's assume this isn't contract.
This is a rotation.
Because you're contracted to a regional police, but you have a provincial police in your area. If your provincial police were to call you, that's not contracted.
Yeah.
And we're to say, hey, Mr. Towing TowManG, I need a truck here. When is it okay to say no to that call?
Well, and if that's the case, then they can call anybody, right? The fact that they called you should be more than enough reason to go yourself to at least take a look at it, to even see if it's in your wheelhouse. I don't really find that there should really be any time to refuse a police call over the phone unless it's out of your area and way too far, right? If they're calling you for something that's an hour and a half away, that's not nowhere close to being in your area,
why not?
I mean, because then let's say you've got your provincial or state police calling you for that call, but you also have your other police contract in town, right? You still have to. That's your actual contract. Depending on your situation, if you only have the one truck at night, I don't know.
Okay, so to you, if it is out of area and you don't have the truck availability, you are telling the police, no, I'm not available.
Unless I'm contracted to. You're saying it's just a police sergeant.
I'm talking about there is no contract.
Yeah. So then at that point, it's not really a police call. It's just someone else calling in.
No. Pardon? Do you not know how police tows work?
Yes, but why are they calling you in the first place?
Because the customer wasn't able to make a decision. They want to use your company. It's something they might believe that you specialize in. It doesn't matter. In my opinion, there is never a time to say no.
Yeah. In
my opinion, you can tell a roadside to go fly a kite because you're running on a staff shortage. You can, absolute worst case scenario, tell a retail customer, not even tell them you can't do it, but maybe have an ETA that's pushed back to allow for staffing issues, to allow for high call volume, to allow for all those things. But at never any point in time am I getting a call from, I don't care if they call me it's 2 hours away. Perfect example. We had a police service call us this, I don't know, I think this was last winter. I don't remember when it was now, for a vehicle that had been stolen and had been recovered in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
It was down in Laval in Quebec, or one of those little towns. And it was still on scene. Like, it wasn't that this got impounded or whatever. The police were on scene with the vehicle. The provincial police here called us to go down and get it and bring it back to their detachment.
Mm.
I don't care if everybody was sleeping or running on no sleep. An owner, myself, anybody would go do that call, because you do not say no to the police. I don't care where it is.
Well, yeah, that's your local police calling you to go far away.
Okay.
Yeah, that's still a local police call.
It's my provincial police. They cover the whole province.
Yes, but that's your area police.
Telling you to go to another province. There's 5 other companies. They could have called anybody. They called us. I'm going to tell them no. I'm not available. Never. You don't turn down police calls. Because police calls are one of the biggest, especially the way of Ontario has gone with exclusive zones on highways and everything like that. If you don't think that's coming to the rest of the province, you are out to lunch. It will come eventually. When? I don't know. It could be 10 years from now. I'm just saying I could see this being the new norm across the province. They don't launch a pilot project like that with the intentions of just covering one region.
I mean, like, obviously you really never want to turn down a police call, ever.
No. So when is it okay to? Never is the answer. Never. Ever.
Well, no, like if you got a sheriff from 6 towns over calling you to tow one of his shit boxes, that's not really probably even going to pay because no one else in any towns in between you and him have accepted the call. Why are you saying, sure, yeah, I'll come help you out, buddy, even though I have no idea who you are?
Because you have to take the good with the bad. With the police, and here's the problem with the police, and that brings me to scenario 2. There is the difference on, are you going to get paid for this? Do you know what we've talked about before? The vehicle abandonment rate in Ontario is 30%, I want to say. Mm-hmm. Vehicles are abandoned in a towing yard and never paid for. Right? So there's always that risk.
Yep. So
if you're saying that, I'm not going to go tow a car because I don't know if I'm going to get paid on it, well, guess what? You're not going to get to go tow the car that you are going to get paid on. That police is not going to, oh, yeah, we have a tow for you. Oh, what kind of car is it? Oh, it's a 97 Honda Civic. There I go, picking on my Civics again. Oh, now I'm not available. Try that. Try that more than once and let me know how that works out for you, right? There's good and bad that come with it. Now, hopefully your rates and everything are built into a system to absorb those costs, because as an industry, we shouldn't be the ones that are absorbing those costs, right? That is where we need to talk to local governments and abandoning vehicle issues and find solutions to this, right? I'm not saying it's a perfect system, but you definitely, we can work on it, but you can't just say no to the police. Scenario 2 on the phone, no. And even that, scenario 2 would be you show up on scene and it is something that your company is not equipped for. Yeah. That is a whole different scenario. Because if it's something that you are not equipped for, that you cannot safely do, you're starting to lean more on, companies nowadays. Normally, if you don't have a company that has heavies, let's say, and the police call you out to this heavy, subcontract it.
Yeah.
Get a company with a heavy. Most companies know other companies in their area that have equipment that they don't have.
Yeah.
Start working with your neighbors.
Yeah, we've done that a couple of times where we get stuff that's just a little too big for us. We'll stay on scene. We'll still deal with the police. And normally it gets towed back to our yard anyways because we have the storage for it.
Yep.
The subcontractor or the broker in this aspect, he bills us for his work, and then we normally tack on an extra $100 finder's fee or whatever the case may be built into your company's package, and then the storage, right?
A lot of companies run that in a sense of an admin fee.
Yeah.
Right? It's normally your subcontractor's rate plus a certain percentage of admin, and that's to pay them and be waiting on payment and everything else. But absolutely. So this still comes back to there isn't a good time. You don't refuse police calls. Police calls are the one thing that businesses that I've worked for have been built on is police work. Because a lot of times, and this comes with value, right? If the police want you to drop everything, why are police, people say that, why is it more expensive if I get towed by the police than if I were to call you because I broke down? And the reality is because when the police call, everything gets dropped. The police become the number one priority. And that ability to respond within a timely manner at top priority comes with a cost. You shouldn't be doing that for the same price that you're doing your in-town boost at, right? When somebody's sitting at home. I'm not saying every car that's broken down has to have a different rate based on where they are. But what I'm saying is a police call is drop everything and go. 20-minute response time on scene, get this thing going. Well, that comes with a cost. And that's where you need to build those costs in to make it that police calls are worth something. We have cops calls from all kinds of areas to come help out because we do a lot of specialty things. And so it's not just going to be like, I don't have a guy and it's kind of far and, I don't know if I'm going to get paid. It don't work that way. It's, yes, sir, I'm on my way. And it's our job to figure out how to get paid on it. And then you know what? That next time when they do get, anything else they need, they know who to call. They know the company to call. So In my opinion,
I think it's different. Like you work for a pretty big established company that does a lot of specialty things and has a tremendous amount of tools in your toolbox. But when you get into smaller companies where 2, 4, 6 trucks even, to where all they pretty much do is your basic standard towing day in, day out. If they get a call for a vehicle that's burnt down in a forest next to a creek or something that's from 2 towns over, and the police are saying, hey, can you come get this?
Yeah.
You're not equipped to do that job, nor do you know anyone that can do off-road recovery, especially in that area. I could understand why you say no to that.
I say you find the people that can. You make the phone calls and you find the people that can. You say yes and you get the job done. Whether that be through subcontract, whether that be through whatever means necessary. But I believe you get the job done. You are right. But those are going to be some of your highest revenue calls. Because specialty work comes with specialty pay. Those will be some of your highest revenue calls. And instead you're going to sit there and say, no, I'd rather not, because I don't want to lose a guy and have to miss out on my in-town tows that might come in while that's gone for those 2 hours. It's everyone's got their opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying everyone's got their opinion. In my opinion, you never say no to a police call.
What are you leaning on, Sarah?
Well, okay, I wrote down several reasons why I could think to refuse a police call. And you guys covered if you're understaffed, don't have the right equipment. And I wrote down abandoned RVs because I know that's a big thing, at least on the West Coast, is that the police will call and they'll be like, oh, please pick up this abandoned RV. And the tower knows going in, there's no way they're getting paid for that. In fact, it's going to cost the company sometimes thousands of dollars to dispose of that.
Yep.
So I see what you're saying, PlainGuy, that like you just don't refuse. But there was one scenario that I was thinking of, and I really hope that this wouldn't happen. But what if you get on scene and the car is in a really dangerous location and the police see you arrive and they're like, okay, bye. And they leave you and they're not going to block for you.
Well, if they've left, you've already established that you showed up on scene and that you're going to get it done. So you're kind of up Schitt's Creek at that point.
Oh, no, I'm calling the comm center. Yeah. You get them back here. I'm going to do your call. But if it is like, I mean, I don't know if I've had.
I can't imagine this situation. I was just thinking outside the box if there was a reason.
Okay, so I answer your question, then I gotta get to a quick story on something very similar where you turn around, the cops are gone. But no, I think most police have a pretty good understanding that if it's in an unsafe location like that, they're not going to leave you high and dry. But in a situation like that where they did, I'm definitely on the phone with the comm center going, hey, I need a traffic unit here. If I can't supply my own, I need something here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm getting them back to it. It's your call. I'm going to provide the service for you 100%. I'm going to get you taken care of. But that comes with me needing an officer, let's say, for traffic. Mm-hmm. So that being said, we had gotten a call in one of these winter storms out to do a tractor trailer that was in the ditch. And so I went up the highway and I pulled up on scene. I'm sitting there and doing traffic control. And I finally get up to the scene. I'm talking to the officers and I go, yeah, your company called us. And, oh, okay. Yeah, no problem. So I'm like, I'm going to get you in my pickup. We're going to get off the highway. The truck's well off into the ditch. It's something we're going to be dealing with in the morning. So I'm just going to go get some information off the truck before we leave. Okay. So I put him in my truck. I go down and I go, this isn't the truck I'm looking for. I'm looking for a Freightliner. This is a Kenworth or a Western Star. And oh my God, that's not the company on the trailer. So I go, well, I'm going to give this guy back to the officers because obviously my truck is somewhere else on this highway.
Yeah.
And I come back around the front of his transport. He was well in the ditch. And I look and they're gone. I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'm giving you a ride off the highway. And then he shows me his phone and it says so-and-so Towing, which was a company out of Toronto. We're going to come down and do the job. And he's like, you're not them. I'm like, I am not. I am not. So as I'm driving,
see the name on the truck as he got in, I guess.
I don't think he could. I don't think he was paying much attention to that. I think he was in a little bit of shock. Yeah. And so as I'm going up the highway, I see the second truck and I go, we're going to pull over here for a second because I got to pick this guy up too, because that is my customer that I thought I was picking up at the last one and brought them both to the truck stop. But it was definitely one of those moments where I go, I'm just going to give him back to the cops and they can sort out where he wants to go. And I get around and I look and I'm like, I got a problem. Cops are gone. So that is a situation, Sarah, like you asked, where cops actually left me high and dry. But of course, I had already committed to taking this passenger off the highway. So I ended up sticking to my commitment, took the guy off the highway and gave him a business card and said, hey, look, if something comes up, here you go. I'm not trying to solicit the work from you. You've obviously your company's set up with a company. I'm just, maybe being a nice guy. There's my good karma for that snowstorm. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Well, it's not really good karma. You said, hey, buddy, I'll take care of you. Get in my truck. And
yeah. I thought he was my customer. That is my defense. I felt bad because I even told the officer after, I'm like, look, I wasn't trying to scoop any work or anything, because I ran into them a little later on at the other one. And I go, I honestly thought it was the guy I was called for because nobody else had called in the other transport. The only transport that had been called in the ditch was this transport, and that's a call I had.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good one. We had fun that night. We had a good little chat. Another thing that was sent in by Adam at the same time that we can definitely get into was and this is a big one because you've changed companies. Of course you have. I don't know why I asked that. I knew you changed companies. I've changed companies over the years. And the question is when do you know it's time to change companies? When do you know it's time to walk away from the place you're in? Whether that be, is it time to walk away from the towing industry, or if it's time to walk away from just that company and hopefully find greener pastures elsewhere?
Oh, well, I think a big driving factor to that is cost of living and the amount of money that you make there, right? And that's a big factor, but it could also be you want to grow more as an operator and you've outgrew that company. Those are the two big factors that revolve around the industry. Obviously, you have life events that require you to move and whatnot. So that could be also another driving factor to change companies because you're forced to at that point.
Yep.
But on your own accord, like I've worked for a company before where I thought I was making really good money. And then at the end of the year, when I got my T4 and did my taxes and I did all my finances for the year, I was like, I didn't make enough money to save as much money as I wanted to. So I knew it was time for a change, right? That could be a part of me just not set my priorities quite right. But still, yeah, I still knew it was time to move on. And I moved on to a different company to where I was able to work closer to home and save money that way, and was able to cut down on my expenses because I wasn't paying the same amount of rent as I was before. And it's always a good thing to do because I find you can work at one company for your whole life and that's great. But the downfall to that is you're only learning from the people there. Especially if you get in and you start working for a couple of years at a company, you're like, yeah, this is good. If you change companies, you can learn new things, learn different techniques, how different people do things differently. And at this new company, you might have, I say might, have more opportunities to get into bigger trucks or do different things and really find your stride as a tow operator.
I think it's a valid point. I think no matter what you do, any change that you're going to make, the important thing is to keep it that it is not going to be along the same plane. Meaning if you are going to make a change, it has to be for an improvement.
A change.
Whether like you said, whether it be for financial reasons, whether it be for, I don't know if learning reasons, but career advancement is definitely one. Yeah. Or whether it be sometimes, and towing can be a nasty industry, whether it be for mental health, right? I think that's a big key one that you missed, is that there is, and not just towing, in the world, there's plenty of toxic workplaces out there. Everybody's got a story of a very toxic workplace. So, and that has a toll and takes a toll on the body and takes a toll on the mind. And so you've got to watch when you're in those kind of situations. That being said, you got to make sure you're also not the toxic one in the workplace before I'm looking at making these changes, because things might not work out the way that you're going to want them to. Just changing. If
you've gone through 5 different companies and they've all been toxic, maybe it's you.
Yeah, but when do you know is the right time? That's a tough one. But I think the answer comes down to you do know. It comes in stages, in my opinion, right? I've always said leaving the towing industry or leaving a towing company comes in 3 The three main steps are 1 year in, 3 years in, and 5 years. Those are most of the time when we see operator drop off are normally at those intervals: 1 year, 3 year, 5. Don't know why. 1 year, it's you're burnt out, especially if you've been going hard for that year. The really effective burnout might lay in, and you go, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this." 3 years, you've gotten through that first hump. You've had a couple more years of it, and you go, "Do I really want to do this for, more years? Do I want to keep doing this?" And so that's where you would be looking at a change. And it might not just be out of the industry. It could be just to a different company where greener pastures, you hope, lie, right? Like you want to hope that there's maybe it won't be like this. And they promised me this. And, they talked to me about this. I love, and I've done it. I've made the mistake. I made a change one time going, these guys are telling me it's going to be this and this and this. And I was young and I was naive. It's the towing industry. You know what it's going to be. And these guys that sugarcoat and bullshit it to, to appeal to bring guys over, you're doing nobody a favor, right? When I do interviews now with people, it's like, hey, there's days it's gonna suck. It is. You are going to hate it. It happens. I'm not going to tell you that every day is going to be this new exciting adventure, and it's going to be smiles, and you are going to have the best time of your life.
That's how you got me in.
Yeah, I know. I was young and naive, and so were you. There is going to be days that this is absolutely going to tear you down and try to break you. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of positives that come out of it. So if you are having a hard time finding the positives anymore, if you are having those good customers that you're meeting and they're not having that positive effect on you, and the negative outweighs the positive for a consistent enough period, because there's bad weeks and there's bad months. I'm saying if you have 6 months where the negative is just absolutely outweighed the positive, I think you're starting to get close to being ready to make that decision. Yeah. A year would be, sometimes you got to set those timelines. Hey, I'm going to give this place a year to turn around. If it doesn't, I'm out. And then some guys just jet, and they just know. They wake up one morning and you go, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with this place, or I'm done with this industry, one or the other. It's something you just feel. Hopefully it's something that when you feel it, you've thought it through enough, and you're not making harsh decisions, and you stick to any commitments that you've made. We see that all too often in the towing industry, right? Towing industry, I feel like, is one of those big ones where we don't have necessarily that professionalism when it comes to the exiting, whether it be on the employee or the employer side. I've seen plenty of employers like that as well.
I asked one of my employers once, is like, how much notice would you like ahead? 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or 6 weeks? Just trying to be a nice guy. I wasn't putting in my notice. I was just saying, hey, if it comes a time, how much notice would you like? And the only answer I got back was 52.
52 weeks?
Yeah.
I thought the answer you were going to get was that he fired you on the spot, because it sounds like if you're asking that question, you're kind of considering that.
But I think it's even when you start thinking about it, because we all have those days like, oh, screw this, F that, I'm done, right? It's normally just a bad day.
Yeah.
Right? You have a day like that, and it passes. The biggest thing I've learned is never overreact in the moment. Take a day, take a week, right? Really think about it and weigh out your options. I know when you're young, and I'm still fairly young, I'm 26, but when I was in high school and my early 20s, I was just like, as soon as I had the thought, boom, did it. I acted on it. And it was irrational. Now, when you actually take a step back and look, you start realizing, hey, okay, that was a bad day, followed by a bad week. Okay, so how can I change this? How can I make it better for myself? Okay, you realize you can't make your workplace any better. What's your next step? Oh, well, talk to management, see if they can do something for you, whether that's reduce your hours or increase your hours, work a different shift, maybe switch a truck, whatever the case may be. Okay, that doesn't work. Okay, now you've exhausted your options and your company's options. Now what? Well, time to move on. All right. And that could be a month process. That could be a 2-month process. That could be a 3-month process. But once you actually come to that decision, at least you know, and you don't have to think back. It's like, oh, well, what if, because you've covered those what ifs before you left.
Yep. No, I think that's true. And I don't think enough people do that. I don't think enough people go, okay, here's my problem. Let's take the first step. Can I solve this problem? Yes, no. No. Okay. Can management solve this problem? Yes, no, no. Can, what other options do I have? None?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, now it's time to make that change. A lot of people go, I don't like this place. This upsets me. I'm quitting.
Yeah.
You're not doing anybody any favors. You're not doing yourself any favors. I do believe that you have to, there's got to be some shit in your life.
Yeah.
Some obstacles to overcome. You cannot just leave because you don't like something. You can't just quit something because you don't like something, whether that be a company or whether that be an industry. You need to overcome a little bit of this sucks and I don't want to do this, but you know what? It's going to pay off. I mean, you can't be like that every day, right? Like you're just self-abusing yourself if you're going to sit back and go, I'm going to purposely hate this place every day just to teach myself a lesson for, to help myself.
And there's guys that do that. You can see them. They're 50, 60 years old now, and they're just absolutely miserable because they've been doing something they don't like their whole life, and they just never changed.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Adam, when do you know it's time to change companies? And if you're starting to feel that way, start to take a kind of, what's that the saying? Like, take stock of what you got going on. See if it's something that's with yourself, with the company, and try and take steps to address it. If it's something that you can't address, it might be time to move on.
Yeah.
Sarah, I love this because we get to have the kind of debate on it, and then we get to get Sarah's educated opinion on who's right, who's wrong. What do you think?
Yeah.
The problem is you guys steal most of my points. Like when TowManG was talking about if you have been through 5 companies and every one of them is toxic, it's time to look at you. I knew somebody who was like that, and every 6 months she'd get a new job because every job that she just said, oh, the managers abuse me. They treat me terribly. And I finally had to say, like, okay, well, what are you doing to contribute to this?
Yeah.
And
it's not all everyone else's fault all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge one. And I know I've been guilty of that when I was younger, of working at a job, and it just felt like I was being abused and not treated properly. And I look back on it and I'm like, yeah, but what was I contributing to that? What could I have done better as an employee to be a better part of that team? So
besides being a little entitled in my opinions and stuff like that, I think we've all done that at one point.
Yep.
And every work environment is going to be toxic in its own way. And I just think that that's never really a great reason to leave your job is that I think that there's ways to overcome that. But I think what TowManG was also saying about growth and money actually are the 2 major things that I think factor in if it's time to change tow companies or not, is if you don't feel like you're getting the opportunities to move forward and learn new things, and if you don't feel like you're making enough money, and then go to your employer and say, I need X amount of money in order to support myself or my family. Are you able to provide that? And if they say no, then you should go in with a backup plan. You're like, okay, well, then I'm going to have to go here, and have done your research going into it and be like, I can make more money here, or I can make more money here. Don't just go in with a bad attitude and be like, well, I can make more money if I go and be a trucker or something, and you haven't researched or you haven't figured out if that's actually true or not. Go in with some
or you just won't like it. Or you just won't like it and you're going to be back.
Yeah, exactly.
How many guys have you seen, myself included, that go, mine wasn't I'm going to go make something of it. No, it was just, burnout and everything else. But you go, I'm going to go try something else. And then you go, yeah, that wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I can't do anything other than work in a towing company.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets to the point where that's pretty much your life, right? It's a lifestyle, and you get accustomed to that lifestyle, no matter how shitty it could be at times. And then you jump into something else and you're like, this isn't towing. And you have that thought, this isn't towing. And sometimes that'll just bring you back.
Yeah, no, it's. I think everybody in the industry needs to take a break away from the industry. Whether that be just straight up through holidays is probably the safest way to do it. But if not, honestly, I think you need to, after you've been in it for a little while, I'd say 5+ years, take a sabbatical on it. Sometimes isn't the worst. just to kind of refocus and remember what it is that you enjoy about the industry when you're away from it, right? You don't want to have to leave it to miss it, but at the same time, the reality of it is sometimes it does get overwhelming with the long hours and the on-calls in the middle of the night and all that kind of stuff, that you need that little take a breath, take a sit back and go, why did I enjoy doing this for as long as I've already done it? Because a lot of times you'll probably find the answer to your question and be able to solve that problem. So
especially if you're young too, don't be afraid to change, right? Change is hard. And I know myself, I hate change. I really hate change, but a lot of times change is good and you can find new things in different avenues. And without change, you're pretty much what you set up for your life today is going to be your life 40 years from now.
Yeah, change sucks. And it's coming from a guy who moved 4 hours away multiple times. So change is tough, but it definitely has a purpose. So
one thing not to change is don't stop listening to the Towing Life podcast.
There you go. Don't ever stop. So thank you, Adam, for the questions. If you have your own questions for the show that you want us to get into, debates you want us to have, you can email us at thetowinglife@gmail.com or find us at the Towing Life podcast on Facebook. You can send us messages through there or on YouTube. Feel free to post the comments. If you'd rather keep them private, the other two ways are better. And we will get to them on the show when and if we can. So that's enough questions and stories. And G's got a new tool. Well, he doesn't have a new tool. G wants to talk about a new tool.
I thought we were at time. We've been
we're going to talk about it.
All right.
We're going to talk about it. So, G, I will let you talk about it, and I will show pictures.
So I saw this fancy little device on Facebook. I'm not going to lie. It was on Facebook from a company we worked with before, BA. And it's actually called Easy Wheel. And I've seen something like this before. I think we saw something like this at a tow show previously. I'm not sure if you saw it as well.
Yep.
But the nice thing about this, and I'm not 100% sure if I would actually use it myself. And I see this a couple of times in the towing industry where you see something and you're like, that's really cool. I like it.
Ball dog hitch.
Yeah. And then you're like, yeah, I could see how that works. And you might actually go out and buy it, but you never use it. Now, with this thing, if you're an audio listener, I'm sorry, you won't see the pictures. I'm sure if you go on to Facebook under BA, they've got it all over their Facebook. Or if you jump over to the YouTube side, you'll see a picture of it. But what it is, it's a wheel. They did. It's a wheel at the end of the day. You put this wheel on the hub of a car that's locked in park, and the wheel actually has its own like hub on it, and the wheel can spin around the hub that's bolted onto the car. So it makes it good for getting things on beds that's locked in park or have an emergency brake locked on. And it's got a speed limit of 5 kilometers or 5 miles per hour and a weight limit of about 2,000 pounds per wheel. So it's not super light duty. I would say that it's got a lot more applications in like underground parking where you can't really get dollies and a racker in the same way. A lot of times the dollies might be too wide and hit a post. At least with this, it keeps the device a lot closer to the car. Personally, myself, I don't really see a use for this because we've already got dollies and we've got wheel lifts that will be able to pick up the disabled vehicle that won't roll or can't roll. And I also find that it's probably a lot of work. You got to jack up the car, take that wheel off, put this device on, tow it, and then change it back. So you're changing 2 tires to get it onto the bed, which could be done potentially with a skate or just a set of dollies, which is already in your wheelhouse.
But okay. So as you were saying, it is the BA products. It is the Easy Roller spinner. I think they just call it the Easy Roller. And you're right. It's a small. We have seen this at a tow show before, but it wasn't that. That was what we seen at a tow show was a universal hub wheel for vehicles that have wheels stolen or anything like that you can at least put on for body shops. Mainly is what it was for, to roll them around. That you still needed to put the vehicle in neutral. They were just these big, almost like dumbbells.
Yeah.
Right, that you would bolt on and to roll them around. This is the same idea, except they added, you're right, that center hub option that even if the vehicle is locked in park, parking brakes are stuck on, whatever it may be, this will roll. Now, Application, my personal opinion, I do believe that this is geared more towards body shops. I think they, and garages would really benefit from a product like this, but I'm not saying the towing industry wouldn't. How much work is it? Well, we talked earlier about turning down police work because you don't have the specialty equipment. This is specialty equipment.
Yep.
This is a product that you can bill for. It's not worth it. I have to change 2 tires. You're billing for it. You're billing for this product. Yep. It is a vehicle into a backyard where dollies can't fit through. Yep. It is a vehicle into a spot where around a fence that you cannot get the dollies to come through, and it needs to come straight through. So it's either drag it. Yep. I had a scenario not long ago for the police. It's not one that we can get too many details, but it was involved in some criminal activity, and this car was behind a house. We were not allowed to touch it. It was locked in park, and we had no direct line of sight to the vehicle.
Yeah, you called me on that.
We had to pull it backwards. We had to turn it sideways. We had to come through a fence, and it couldn't. Dollies would not have made it through this fence and everything that it had to come to. This product would have worked. Yep. This product would have allowed me to jack it up, take off the wheel, back it up, drop it, put the tire if I had to, spin it sideways, do it again, come right through. This product would have probably saved me an hour of work. So it has its application in the towing industry. Is it something you're going to use every day? No, of course not. But you start to get into these Teslas 4-wheel locked up. Yes, you can use skates. Yes, you can use dollies in 70, 80, 90, maybe even 95% of the times. But that time that you can't, these products and specialty products like this are what are going to set you apart from your competition. So I like the idea. I'd like to look at getting one. I think they have a purpose. I think body shops, and they have a 4-bolt, 5-bolt one, and they have a 5-bolt, 6-bolt one. There's 2 different part numbers. I've got the one up on the screen right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a tool that if you buy it, you're probably going to leave it in the shop for all your employees to use. You're not going to leave it on one truck.
Oh, this is something where, again, those police call you for that weird one, and they know that you have the stuff to get stuff done. And you are going to pull this thing out, and you are going to impress a lot of people with it. I'm not like this. In my opinion, this is not for the most part your disabled vehicle tows. This would come down to a lot more on stolen recoveries going for ident. That you're not allowed to touch the vehicle, right? They don't care if you touch the rims. They don't want you touching the door, steering wheel, any of that stuff. So you still don't have the option to turn the wheel. The fact that it drives on it is pretty interesting. Like I said, you can lock it up. At that point, I don't fully understand. I guess if a wheel was stolen, it's just to add another tool to it, right? That you can lock it up. It doesn't have to be stuck in the free spin option. And wheels are stolen, whatever it may be. This thing definitely has, like, I'm going to look into getting one because I think that I could definitely see some situations that I've encountered personally where this tool would have probably saved me time, saved me money, and saved me possible damage. So good on, you know what? This is what I like about BA when it comes to the air bars, when it comes to all this stuff. They really do come out with some products that you kind of look at and go, you crazy bastards, that might just work.
Yeah. Have you ever ran into a situation? Well, I know you said that one vehicle behind the house.
Yeah.
Have anything else that comes to mind that you could have used this for?
Trying to think off the top of my head. I'm sure
because like if it's on grass, a lot of times the back tires will just slide on grass, and this is a very thin, rubbery, plastic, whatever type of tire that would probably just sink in mud and grass. So I don't really think it would do its job as well on the
parking garages.
Yeah.
This could definitely have an advantage in a parking garage with a vehicle stuck in that the truck can't get in. Not that Go-Jacks, I know would be a lot of people's first go-to is Go-Jacks. Problem is with Go-Jacks, when you get into some of these grates, and some of these humps in these parking garages and everything, that could run into a problem. So there's
and if you're trying to push forward and it slides sideways into a post on a Go-Jack, that's not great.
Yeah, there's definitely things like this where it's kind of locked in still that straight or steering like you would a tire. And then you use a catch vehicle to kind of lower it down as you go. And even if it's locked in park, and linkages, whatever, there's all kinds. It depends what the situation is, right? We found ways to disable electric park brakes on the Dodges and that. There's definitely tricks to do that kind of stuff. But the way cars are going, I could see this becoming more and more valuable for a lot of the new vehicles that go full parking brake on and locked in park. Right, you might need a couple of them, or mix and match with some dollies and one of those. Like, no, there's definitely going to be uses for this, depending on where you live and what kind of work you do. Like, I'm not in a huge town. It's not like I'm in a metropolitan where I have all kinds of, for the size of our town, we get a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And so if we can find a use for it, I'm sure most people could as well. And if not,
use that
moving stuff around in your yard.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's advantages to moving stuff around in your yard. So you definitely find something.
I looked up the price just now, and it's not unaffordable either. I'm probably looking at the American price, which looks like it's $275. But if you're invoicing for this, it's going to pay for itself.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Even $50-$75 per wheel per time of use.
That's what people forget to do all the time. It's like, oh, I'm not going to buy this. Invoice for it. The BakPul hitch is a perfect example. Thank you to the fine folks over at BakPul. Yeah. That is something that when that thing comes out on my trucks that we need to use, if it's specialty for that sense, I'm billing for it.
Yeah.
Right? If it's something that I have to, like the camper that, with the haul and the trailer, with the sliding camper that I need to use, I build for it.
Yeah.
And eventually the product pays itself off. And if you get a good product like this, like I said, at $250, $300 a wheel, I mean,
that's a little excessive, but okay.
What do you mean? No. I mean the price.
Oh, I thought you meant billing for it. I was like, oh.
No. What do you think you're billing for this? Oh boy.
$50-$75 a wheel.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's reasonable. So four times you use this thing, how long do you think that thing's gonna last you? A year? No, it's gonna last you like 10.
Yeah.
If you take care of it and you do it all properly. So I mean it'll pay for itself easily. So but no. I think I'm a big fan of it. So if you haven't, head over to BA Products or check over on our Facebook. We shared the video as well. They hired the voice guy from Heavy Rescue 401.
Yeah.
To do their ad, which he has such a very distinct voice, that gentleman. I wanted to play the video, but I was worried we'd get in trouble. So, so that being said, thank you again for coming out to another episode of the Towing Life Podcast. You can reach us on Facebook at the Towing Life Podcast or the website www.towinglife.ca or comment down below on YouTube. Head over to the Recovery of the Month. Get your submissions in. Head over to the shop. Get yourself some Towing Life merch. And we will see you guys all next week. Thank you, TowManG. Thank you, producer Sarah. Take care.
Toodles.
Bye.
You know what sucks?
What?
Is I had that lined up so nice to go into Sarah's invoice topic, but we were all
I know the segue was perfect. It was on the tip of my tongue, and I was like, leave it.
I know. As soon as we got to it, I was like, oh, I could so transition this. I could do it so easy.